Well, actually, I think what happened at 17 is an indication of what happens in an Open. You played a marvelous shot and got on the wrong side of the hole.
Exactly. I did exactly what I wanted to do in the fairway. I did not want to leave it on the front tier where Nick was. I felt like that was a difficult two-putt. And not being on the top side of that green all week long, I just didn't realize how fast it could be and how fast it was. And I just didn't quite hit it easy enough, I guess, obviously. And a second putt, I think, was a direct result of the first putt. And I hate to admit it because you're supposed to gather yourself and forget about the next putt and go ahead. But I was a little bit in shock. I couldn't believe it went that far by, and I missed the putt, but I fortunately regrouped in part 18.
And here he is now, back on 17 again, with yet another adventure. He's bogeyed it the last 2 days, and again he had a perfect tee shot as he did those other 2 days.
That's what happens to you, Jim. You overprotect with the wind there. He was left yesterday. He knows how fast that is. Jerry Payton pointed out, maybe he left himself easier shot. He's played a bunch of wonderful bunker shots this week.
This is much like the bunker shot he had at 18 yesterday, the same kind of shot. He can throw it way up in the air. It's very fast going down to the flag.
Touch on that, huh? Under.
That's as much pressure as you're under playing golf.
Yep.
When you're playing for the Open Championship.
Now it's over to Faldo, who has a difficult shot in back of the green.
All he has to do is touch it. He's only about 4 or 5 feet off the putting surface, but there's no way that he can carry the ball up onto the green. He's got to land it in the short fringe and barely do that. He's got to do it with a very lofted club.
A more difficult
when it
shot.
takes off, it's going.
More difficult shot than Curtis's?
Well, I think they're about equally difficult, Jim, but this one now, with Curtis already having played the shot, is really tough. There's one thing about it, though, you know, he's got to kind of try and make it, and I don't think there's any way he can leave it short. That's the one good thing that you might say about this shot, that I think it'll have to get to the hole.
Down in there a little bit, so it's going to really be speedy, Jim.
It'll be tough to keep it anywhere near the hole, isn't it?
Stranger things have happened. The hole might get in the way.
But it didn't, and it's about as close as he could keep it, right?
He chipped it as good as he could, I think. He landed it in the short fringe with a very long...
Famous players of being Open champion the rest of your life.
That should do it. That should do it. One more hole to play, but that should do it for Curtis Strange of Virginia. A 3-stroke lead with 1 hole to play. Played even par to this point. Take a look at 18, the finishing hole, Dave.
Well, that street is very close there, but you really don't hear it. I know Curtis isn't going to hear it right now. This is a slight dog leg to the left. The 2 bunkers you see there in the left rough are in play. Players on this hole sometimes, depending on the wind, the 3 bunkers there, rather, maybe a driver, maybe a 3-wood to a green that is elevated a little bit, maybe 10 feet or so above the fairway. That front bunker has seen a lot of players in it this week. That's where Curtis played that great bunker shot yesterday. The pin today, 9 yards from the front of the green, 24 feet from the left side. You can see where it is.
David, I believe that Curtis has been in that bunker all 4 times, hasn't he?
You're right, Bob. He certainly has.
Yep. Look at this crowd lining the fairway here, and they're all around in the grandstands. It's reminiscent of the final round of the British Open, really. The grandstand's not nearly as large as they are over here, but big crowd. Look at them way in the distance down there.
Well, the people at 15, you see in the top left view screen there, instead of facing the 15th green, they've now all stood up and they're back facing this 18th hole.
Hope they have their binoculars or their portable TVs.
Well, this will be quite a moment for Curtis Strange, the son of a golf professional, Tom, who was a wonderful man. And died when Curtis was 14, when Curtis and Alan were 14. And this is a great moment for this man who's really worked hard on not only his golf game, but his personality, and tried harder to not be so hard on those around him.
And himself.
And you can see what he's got out. He's got himself an iron.
Okay. One more hole for Curtis Strange.
Right down the middle of the fairway.
There it is.
Not very long, but in good shape.
Now, Nick, I would think, has to maintain his concentration a bit. Try not to think, well, it's all over.
Tonight he's going to reflect that, look, he did the best he could. He tried as hard as he could. Not very many people tie for a U.S. Open, and even fewer win a U.S. Open. But history is repeating itself here, Jim, in that the 3 British Open champions, if something happens here, that were in playoffs, none of them won.
In 75 years.
Well, that's a big one. Cutting down the right side. Going to end up in the middle of the right center of the fairway. Good position.
So he's ending up as he's played all through this championship. Great respect and great talent. We'll return with more U.S. Open playoff action. We'll return to the Country Club after a word from your local station. His wife, Sarah, such a very nice young woman.
Terrific. And that's what you don't see when you're out there playing, is either how happy, I mean, that's maybe a little tears of happiness there that you think of tonight when they reflect on what happened today, and you'll do this for quite a long time after this, Jim. All the people in all the places you've been, and here we are.
Remember that the applause you'll hear when they walk up will be for Curtis Strange, but it will also be for Nick Faldo. First, they must play.
This shot is from 225 yards.
Well, can he avoid that bunker finally one time?
He's got to get up just a little bit, and did.
All right. Wow, what a shot. You've said many times, Dave, you do get pumped up in a moment like that. You got it, Curtis.
I'll never forget that 2-iron. Hale Irwin hit it Wavefoot. Now he knows it's mine. As he says hi to Mr. Phil Battle there, the president of the USGA.
Rossi, I know Curtis is a very good friend of yours. This must mean a little something to you, too.
It really does. I've got shivers running up and down my back.
Yeah, we can hear a little quaver in the voice there, Ross.
Did you find that, Bob, when you won the PGA, that your friends and how you felt for them and how they felt for you when you talked to them?
It's just a feeling that you can't, you really can't tell about it, and they can't tell about it. It's 175 yards for Faldo.
And he's caught the ball.
Just didn't get up.
He had to go for the hole. That's what he did.
But then he kind of chanced. And there's one of the few balls I've seen that looks plugged there in the front. So all of a sudden it's gone from bad to worse for Nick.
That's exactly right.
But, you know, Jim, as we look at Curtis.
All right. Here we have the tribute to the new champion of American golf.
the greatest day of your golf life, Curtis Strange.
That's Nick Faldo's wife on the left. Sarah Strange commiserating with him. A lot of things in his life may be going through his mind right now.
You'll never have to answer that question again about why haven't you won a major.
From now on, who knows how many majors he may win at the age of 33.
Well, he's felt all along. He's young. He's only 33. He's just coming into his prime. He's always felt he's had a lot of time. Got to be thinking of his dad, who started him playing golf. All the people that have helped him. Chandler Harper helped him a lot. Chandler from down in
Old
his
Virginia
area.
man.
Right, from his area of the country.
There's Nick Faldo's shot. On the green in 3. Of course, Strange is on a 2.
I think what may happen now, Nick may go ahead and cut out here.
And there's the tribute for Nick Faldo. Let's listen to that.
Yeah, he looked over. I thought Nick had looked over at Curtis and said, "Let me go." Yeah.
We've seen that a lot of times, so that the champion can then
Yes.
putt out. Everybody will wait for that, whereas they might not wait patiently and quietly for the other man to putt out.
Yeah, looking back in years to come, too, Jim, they're going to see if Nick makes this, let's say, and he shoots 74 for the day, and Curtis 2 putts for 71, they're going to say, gee, that wasn't very close at all. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, beat him 3 strokes.
Yep.
Never know how excruciating it has been for both of these guys all day long. Jill Faldo, his
Yep.
wife.
Chilean, known as Jill. So he'll end with a bogey 5 for a round of 75. 4 over par for Nick Faldo in the playoffs.
I have to say, the last 2 bogeys were because he had to try to do things that he wouldn't normally do if it was closer than that. It's still a good show, Nick.
And now the formality of Curtis Strange crowning himself as U.S. Open champion by putting this ball in the hole. Sarah. Not quite. Perhaps one more. He could still take a few from here.
But you don't want to finish that way.
No.
Seen a number of times where a guy's a 2 or 3 stroke lead, he makes it from somewhere on the last hole.
This for an even par round of 71.
Yeah, and for the U.S. Open. Way to go, Curtis.
Curtis Strange of Virginia has won the United States Open Golf Championship. He's the American champion of golf. There's Mark Harmon caddying for him today. And Nick Faldo with the pat on the back and the handshake.